Welcome to Quick Review, a series in which we examine several classics from the past and we analyze them personally to see what made them stand up and if they are worth watching nowadays. Today, we will be watching Rocky. As some of you may know, Rocky is the boxing movie. However, it didn't reach this stage because it is necessarily the best movie of boxing ever. Hell, some might even say that some of the next movies of Rocky are better. However, it's because of the legacy this movie has. So what we're about to jump into is quite not because of its plot, but rather because the movie is quite polished and of course is one of Sylvester Stallone's best works, and easily the one that defined him as an actor. So, without further ado, let's talk about Rocky. What characterizes Rocky as a good movie, it's its tremendous blend between something so passionate, such as boxing, and something so relatable, just as trying to be someone. And at least for me, that's a topic that I found a lot during the movie, and it's present between several characters. Is it's not, for example, like Rocky himself doesn't buy it at first and doesn't necessarily agree with it, but he does somehow pursue it. He wants to have his fight. Everyone wants to have his fight. So Rocky is this movie about besting yourself and showing to the world that you are someone in a way. It is a movie which the basic plot is basically the best boxer of all, the by champion Apollo Creed, challenges a random person. This random person being Rocky, because who he had planned to fight is just not gonna fight him. He's not in capacity to do so. So Apollo is forced, and he just searches for someone that he can make a great paper out of. Someone he thinks that he could beat, but not necessarily that would be a bad match. So Rocky, the Italian stallion, end up being chosen. Now Rocky, he just gets chosen because the name sounds great. He doesn't seem so strong. So even within what he does, not necessarily what he does for a living, because that's just working for a man named Gonzo. But what he does is already like low level. He's amateur level, and now he has the chance to fight the champion, and that's the moment in which the movie really begins, because this is a movie that, despite it starts with a boxing scene and it revolves a lot around boxing, it doesn't actually show much of it. The movie revolves around Rocky as a person, revolves around his relationships, his friends, how is his life before he gets challenged and after he gets challenged, the training process, the overcoming yourself. So like the movie's not necessarily about the fight between Rocky and Apollo, but the challenge that Apollo makes to Rocky and how it changes his life, how he is pushed not just by himself but by everyone else around him to become better, because at the end of the day they all want him to be someone. They all themselves want to be someone and they cannot, but they want to help a friend out to reach that state. So that is what makes this movie. So Rocky is a tremendous movie, and honestly, it has some cliches. It's not the most modern movie, of course, 1976. It's tremendously old and is much older than The Thing. You could just tell by looking at it. The quality is not the same, the lighting is not the same. And when it comes to effects and those things, it was a boxing movie. They really didn't even need them. So I think it's fine. When it comes to production, I think it's good. You don't need effects, the clothing's fine, and it talks a lot about being a normal person and trying to go beyond. So they really don't need like crazy costumes like in Marvel movies. They really don't need crazy beasts like in horror movies that they have to pull all of these tricks and stunts. Since this is a movie just about a guy, just being a guy, it really worked out for them. It doesn't feel like they truly needed to do much, and they just needed good acting, and they had it. So that's why the movie is such a success, because the movie in some way speaks to you, because the movie in some way has a lot of values in it, has a lot of pursuit in it, and the movie has a great fight at the end that makes it tremendously memorable, and that's why Rocky became the series it became, and it's definitely a movie worth being a classic. Because sometimes, let's be honest, there are movies that don't deserve to be as recognizable as they are. Maybe because they're so tremendously long and difficult to jump into. But Rocky is not that kind of movie. The movie's not short by any means. However, and it is part from a long series. However, the movie, it manages to constantly be addressing its points. It's not like, oh, it started slow and you don't do much since 30. No, the movie feels somewhat complete in that sense. For example, when we saw the thing last time, we talked that the movie wasn't very complete because like the characters were somewhat lacking, and there's really not much world at all because of the weird scenario there are. But we told us like it didn't matter much. But in Rocky, in a movie which like you would think it's about boxing, they really went out of their way to like make Rocky just feel like someone who has dreams, someone who like wants to be someone who struggles, and that just has like somewhat of a good outlook on life. And like they just carry these characters through this whole movie, and I think personally that it makes it more complete of a movie because it's a boxing movie that ends up being much more than it needed to be. And that's why Rocky is a great movie, deserves to be a classic, and that's why you should totally see it even in 2022.